Hi, I'm Kyle PennyPrepper and welcome back to PennyPrepper. In today's video, we're going to be discussing beginning prepping, and if you're new to it, just getting started. All right, if you don't know what you're looking for, then you don't know what you're missing or what you need. So the best thing that you're going to want to start out with is getting information, learning things. A great free way of starting with your preps is getting family contact information, doctor's information, addresses, even your car information, starting a phone tree, or a lot of things that people don't think about is plumber phone numbers, electrician phone numbers, or even seeing if you have friends who have a special set of skill sets like that they can assist you in a time of need. All right, if you're a beginner prepper, the first thing that I suggest you get is information and lots of it. Make sure that you're getting proper information and doing things safely. Last thing you need is false information or misleading information that can put yourself at risk as well as others. Number two is going to be practical skills. That means going out there, actually trying some of your preps. So go for a hike maybe with a bag that's half full, and then work your way up to the full bag, full weight. Also, a great thing that you can learn very easily is tying knots. Go on YouTube, learn how to tie, and especially learn how to actually tie them around things. So go for a hike and actually tie up some stakes, or tie a couple knots around a tree or branches, tie them together. Also, a great thing to get into if you're getting into preparedness is I'm gonna just say pew-pews, just because I know how the YouTube algorithm can be sometimes, and we don't want to offend the YouTube censors. All right, number three, this is gonna be in the rule of three section. I'm actually gonna break down each one. The first one is gonna be air. That's saying that you can't live more than 3 minutes without air. So the rule of three is 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, reasonably, like if you're caught out in a snowstorms or below freezing temperatures, then it's 3 days, 3 days without water, and then 3 weeks without food. So that all ties in, but the 3 minutes without air, so that could be having an air filter in your house or for your whole home, not just an air purifier in a room, and then also going as far as respirators, gas masks, even having a full filtration system if you have something like a bunker, something like that. Number four is going to be shelter. So essentially that's the rule of three, so you can't survive more than 3 hours outside of your home. Like let's say it's negative 20 degrees out. You're probably not going to last too long without shelter. So what you're going to want to do is, most people have this idea of bugging out. You shouldn't make that your first choice. It should be to bug in. This is where all your stuff is, and hopefully that's all you have to do. So essentially it's reinforcing the homestead, maybe having a security system, putting out signs that say ADT or ring, stuff like that, actually having a security system installed with the cameras visible, or even buying cheap fake ones off of Amazon can be a big deterrent. Lighting is huge. Having a floodlight out back and out front, even having dogs. I have a giant German Shepherd who loves to bark at everything, and he is a big deterrent. Number five is going to be something pretty simple, but it's essential for life. You can survive 3 days without water. You don't want to go much more than that. You shouldn't go more than a day without water. Probably more than 3 hours you should be drinking water. But essentially, what you want to really do is make sure that you have a good source of water, because if the grid were to go down, that water will not be flowing through the pipes. So having water bottles, you can have containers with water purification tablets already set aside. Also having stuff like life straws and or the Sawyer water purifiers that you can attach to a tap or other sources are great to have. All right, number six is going to be food. It's pretty big deal. It's going to take up a bulk of your prepping area. So if you need about 3 months worth of food, depending on what you're preparing for, try to work it up to a year. Everybody should at least start off with 72 hours. That's 3 days worth, and that's typically what the federal and state governments recommend you prepare for. That's in case there's a power outage or maybe there's a flood or a local emergency. That can pretty well get you through enough time that local services can get through to you. But food preparation, canned food, if you're able to get into pickling and canning. Also, MREs are a great source. They're very high in calories, so if you plan on taking those out of the home, they're a great source of protein, calories, stuff like that. They can keep you going, but be warned, they do constipate you. Essentially, camping foods also are great because it's typically lightweight, freeze-dried, and full of nutrients. All right, in the last video, I covered about getting a budget started, $10, $50, $100. Yeah, I still stick with that, but maybe something that you don't want to consider in that $10 range would be a backpack. Don't skimp out on a backpack. Get something that has a waistband, something that you can carry for a long time. Also, try to get something that's either black or gray, you know, a very solid color, green. Don't get bright orange or yellow. You want to try to stick under the radar a little bit with a bag to start out smaller. So even like a school bag would be great to start out with. Just enough that you could throw a couple meals, some first aid kit items in there, and flashlights, stuff like that. A smaller bag. Something else that if you're a beginner prepper you want to stay away from is pre-made kits or items. Like they have a lot of bug out bags that are pre-made, has a bunch of, stay away from anything that says can do everything, because it's sort of like the jack of all trades, master of none, except for a crappy version. So you might try to open a can and the whole thing just falls apart. So you really want to stay away from that type of stuff. Eventually, you want to get into being able to buy stuff that you can expand upon. And then once you do that, you can either Frankenstein parts off of it and you're already familiar with it. So expanding on that, a lot of times they're compatible, so you can hook things up to each other and maybe create a bigger power source. And you're just familiar with it already, and it's a great way to start. All right, last thing I'm going to touch on before I get into some terms for beginner preppers is get into the mentality. Remember, nobody's really coming. It's great if they do, but don't rely on anybody other than yourself. You need to be able to self-rescue. Prepare for an undetermined amount of time of something going wrong. You need to get into the mentality, and the quicker you do, the better off you are. Also, have a backup for the backup for the backup. You can never have too many backups and redundancies, because if something does go wrong, you at least have a backup. And if something goes wrong with that or somebody takes it, have a backup for a backup for a backup.